This is Eric Malinowski on National Signing Day, Colgate All Access, joined by the Colgate head football coach, Dick Biddle. And a very exciting day, even though it's early February, Coach, and football's a long time away. You have to be excited about this day.
Well, I mean, it's the day recruiting that you look forward to. Where you get your class coming in, the kids are going to help you. So it was an exciting thing, and I think it's a unique thing for us this year because we were fortunate enough that we are able to give scholarships, based upon athletic merit, obviously, and that opened up the pool for the kind of player that we could get here. But it's an exciting thing. But right now you put it behind you and you go on to the next step of it. But I think it was really overall, with all the newness about scholarships, I think our coaches did a great job, and really we're done a little bit earlier than most people. In years past, we'd be recruiting after the signing date. So this is the first time we've done a signing date show. So it's kind of neat.
How's the recruiting strategy changed now, Coach, that you are able to offer scholarships?
Well, I think the first thing you have to look at, they still have to be great students. So, that's always going to be at Colgate. But I think you just go ahead you still have to recruit to the needs that you need at positions like offensive lineman, defensive lineman, or whatever. But what it enables you to do is enables you to go out after, maybe a Division I player, a Division I AA scholarship player that maybe financially you weren't able to go after. So you're hopefully recruiting a better athlete, a better football player. And that's the way we approached it. We didn't want to recruit people that other people were recruiting. We wanted to go out and recruit against the best schools, and that, and the best academic schools, and it really helped us.
What were the positions of need, Coach?
I think really I think linemen are always a priority at this level, particularly offensive and defensive linemen. And we had a lot of senior offensive linemen last year. We have some young guys coming up, but you never have enough offensive linemen. I think any coach will tell you that. And I think the other thing is we need to get some defensive linemen. We've had some guys play it on defense that were linemen that maybe were undersized. And I think in this class we've got 4 offensive linemen that have committed, and we've got 5 defensive linemen. So we've really shored up that, and I think the defensive linemen are athletic enough. If they can't play defense, they could go over and play offense. So we really targeted linemen and linebackers.
Let's talk about some of the kids specifically, Coach, and we don't often mention a kicker first, so let's go with Jonah Bowman, a place kicker from Pennsylvania.
Well, I mean, that's an area that, we need to address. We did a decent job, but I think, with the kicking game, with the way the field is, the way it's, kickoffs are now longer than they were, with moving the ball back and field goals or whatever, I think we really improved ourselves. There'll be some competition, and I think the thing about this is most of the kickers we've had here have been from southern states, and they've had some trouble adapting to the wind or weather. But he's from Pennsylvania, has been able to kick in that, and I think it's really put some competition in there. It really helps us a lot, and it's going to help our defense.
And at any level, 52 yards is 52 yards, and he booted one in high school, huh, Coach?
Well, we'll take it. I mean, if he can boot a 52-yarder at Colgate and win, then but he's a good football player. But what it is that it's not only the extra points and the field goals. You just want to be consistent in that. But I think the big thing was his kickoffs. He's able to put the ball high and deep. And in high school, they kick it a little. The field's a little bit shorter to kick because they kick from 35 or 40. But he was able to put the ball in the end zone, had good height, and that's going to limit the returns. It's really going to help your defense.
Offensive lineman Jordi Del Mall from Miami, Florida. Talk about him.
Well, I think he's got a chance to be in the 2 deep. He's a big kid. He's a strong kid. He's a mature player. Obviously, people down there, from Florida, they go through spring practice, so maybe they're a little bit more mature than maybe other people coming in. But I think he's got a shot to be in the 2 deep, and hopefully, if that works out, or maybe he could start. We're looking at all these players should have a chance to compete and hopefully be in the 2 deep. But I think he's got a shot, and I think we've got some other offensive linemen that can do that too. But I think he's a high caliber player, and I think he's got a great future ahead of him.
Going from Miami close to home, VVS coach Brett Fields, a defensive lineman.
I think he's we've been involved with him for a couple of years because of the location, and I think he's a guy that is good size. I mean, he's athletically, he can play tight end, he can play defensive line, he can play offensive line. He's going to get bigger. He's just the guy that you want to get, and you just got to find the right position for him. But I think he can do a lot for us. I mean, he's just a big kid to run. Obviously, he knows the area and he knows the school, and sometimes the best players within a 5-mile radius of your school.
Tell us a little bit about Joe Figueroa, D-back.
Well, I think we have 2 safeties I think are outstanding. Joe's one of them. I think they're very physical players. They'll give us good depth. But what we also look at the skill positions is it somebody that can move to another position, maybe wide receiver to defensive back or vice versa. But it's also people that can play on special teams and play a backup role. And with him playing safety, if he's a good safety and good enough to start, then you can take a safety and move him to linebacker. So it gives you some depth and options that you can do on defense. But I think most of these skill players are really going to initially going to contribute on special teams.
Linebacker position, Bergen Catholic. I think everybody on the East Coast has heard Bergen Catholic. Dan Grasso.
I think he's an outstanding player. He's in the mold of some of the Neppas and the people like that, the Gallius. I mean, he was recruited by a lot of people, obviously in the Patriot League and Ivy, but also in the CAA, that level in the Southern Conference. I mean, he was offered from some people. So, I mean, he's a real good get for us, a Villanova type player, and, they have good players. And, we've been very successful. We've had a lot of good players from New Jersey, and he fits the mold, and we've had people from his school here. And I think he's got a shot to be in the 2 deep, and obviously he has a chance to contribute on special teams.
Does that help with the recruiting running backs and linebackers, since those are the 2 positions of glory here at Colgate? Of course, you've had the great line of running backs, and then on defense, the linebacking position.
Well, I think the way we really try to sell 2 positions, really, when we're talking about offense, if you want to, footnote it or highlight it. One, obviously, is quarterback. We want to, our quarterback for us has got to be we think your best player, your toughest player, because, we do a lot of things with the quarterback, run, pass, or whatever. And the other thing is the tailback, a running back in our offense. You have to be good. I mean, you're going to get the ball. We want a guy that can carry the ball 35, 40 times a game, and I think that's been our history, and I think that players look at that, and they look, I'm not coming up there to be a role player. We're not going to be a team that's a committee for running back, and that's what we've done, and I think the guys coming in have a chance to do that, obviously, but also with running backs and people like that, if they can't play there, they can play another position. And, we're going to find the right running back. But I think that those 2 positions are probably, and linebacker are positions we really try to push here because, other than quarterback, you can take running backs, they can play linebacker, play defensive back. You can take linebackers, and if they get bigger, they can be defensive linemen. So that's what we've tried to do. But running back has always been a big position for us. And when we've been really, really good, it's when we've had one guy. Like this past year, we had Jordan. So it wasn't, you're rotating people in, and you get a guy that's just consistent.
Let's talk about more of the players that have committed on National Signing Day here at Colgate University. John Madula, 6'1" wideout.
We got him late. I mean, he was involved with some other schools, some scholarship schools, and they kind of backed off him. And he's a guy that's got great speed. He can play a number of positions, but he's the type of receiver that we want. We can play 3 or 4 receivers, and he's got good speed. He also does a great job returning punts and kickoffs, and I think he's got a great future for us.
Jake Melville, quarterback from Sparta High School in New Jersey.
Well, we've had a lot of good players here from Sparta, and I think he fits the mold of the quarterbacks we have, that like the McCarneys and the Sullivans that can run and throw the ball. He's a tough kid, and I think he's a great leader, and I think he's got a chance, to maybe play some, and, chance to, obviously when Gavin graduates, has a chance to be our starter. He's going to have to beat some people, but I think he's a very good football player.
And it's talk about a perfect role model, getting to watch Gavin McCarney in action for a year.
Well, I'd like to watch him a few more years, but Gavin's really, I don't want to oversell it, but the job that he did last year, carrying the ball, running our offense, people ganged up on him, finding the receivers, whatever. I think he had the best year. We've had some great quarterbacks here, and that's, it's hard for me to say that, but I think the year that he had last year was probably the best year since we've had with a quarterback for what we expected out of him. And he was a leader. He's a tough football player, and I just think the players rallied around him, and I think you could see that, and you particularly saw that in the Lehigh game.
Back to the line, talk a little bit about Nathan Benoit.
Well, I think he's obviously a defensive lineman that's going to get a lot bigger, but the thing about him, he can run. He could play a rush end, which is an outside defensive end, but he could also probably be big enough to move inside. And what we've tried to target on defense, particularly in the defensive lineman, is not so much size, but guys that can run. And that's an area we need to improve on. But I think he's the type of recruit that maybe we wouldn't have been able to get if we hadn't, gone to scholarships.
Let's stay on the line, but offensive side, Zach Proven.
Zach is just like Jordi or whatever. I mean, he's a taller kid. He's probably 280. He's going to get a lot bigger. He plays in a great football program, and he's got great feet, and I think he's got a chance to be in the 2 deep and maybe end up starting with our graduation. I think all the offensive linemen have a chance. I mean, we've recruited guys that, we don't have to get bigger that are big right now. Obviously, they will get a little bit stronger, but they have a little bit of size to them, so I think that's important, particularly for a freshman.
I'm loving this show, Coach. I get to talk to you in November and then not again until August, so I miss you a little bit. So I'm glad we got a chance to sit down and talk here in February. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, it's always good, and, I think we've got a great class coming in. We had a great year last year, and I I think the players coming in are only going to continue, and we'll build off that.
Coach, thank you.
Yep.
That is Colgate's Dick Biddle. This is Eric Malinowski, Colgate All Access.